Welcome to episode 15 of the WINS Live interview series. I'm Amie Sheridan, host and founder of WINS Media. The mission of this series is to elevate the visibility of women in sports and entertainment by creating a connected environment for authentic storytelling. Thank you for joining me as I speak with influential leaders from across sports entertainment and beyond. Today, I am so excited to introduce my guest, Tami Powers, CEO and founder, PowerDrive Motorsport Futures. Tami's passion for fast cars has driven her 20-plus year career in motorsports. She launched PowerDrive in 2020 with a mission to connect forward-thinking brands to up-and-coming female race car drivers. Tami and I spoke about a year ago, right? When she was in the very beginning of her journey as a founder, and I cannot wait to hear how it's going.
Oh my God. Has it been a year? I mean, it's a blink to me. It's crazy. It's been a year already. And thank you, Amie, so much for having me on today. It's one of these moments I'm having right now where I look to you and your network of people, and I watch all of your webinars, and I learned so much from the incredible women that you have on. And now I'm sitting here and I'm on with you, and I'm like, okay, I must have been doing something right the last year. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Welcome to the WINS Live interview series. Welcome, Tami. So when we first met, as I mentioned, of course, it was virtual. It was during the pandemic. You were in the midst of launching this thing that you're doing now, right? PowerDrive Motorsports Futures. Can you tell us why you decided to do this? Okay, and just give us a little look into what you're working on the day-to-day.
Oh my God. So we all had so many profound moments in 2020. When everything shut down, I think we all, and especially in sports, everything was shut down. We all had to reimagine and recreate how we do business moving forward. And it gave us time, reflection, looking back at our careers. And I was always sort of, what does this mean? What does my 20 years in motorsports really mean? And what am I leaving behind? What is my legacy going to be? And I come from the NHRA, where women and men compete, head to head equally together for decades, and it's normalized. And when I stopped and looked around the globe and saw all the incredible female racers in all sorts of disciplines aren't really making it to the highest forms in motorsport. And I really dug in deep and found a lot of problems there. And I thought, how can I solve these problems? They're huge problems. How am I going to bridge the gap and create opportunities for women around the globe to be able to have a seat at the table, to get a chance to participate in the highest forms of motorsport, given all their experience and all of their dedication to their craft? And I found a lot of problems to be solved. And like, how am I going to do that? And so I toiled with that and paced the floors. And how am I going to do this? And, putting that energy out there, a lot came back. And with how everyone was connecting during COVID, I mean, this, Amie, women in sports across the board have built a coalition like I have never seen before. And I knew the time was now to do something. So that's how it started.
That's amazing. So many parallels between us. And I know that came up when we talked. It was like you're sitting there in isolation, thinking to yourself, what is my legacy? What really matters to me? What if we don't come out of this thing? And I think for that, it boiled things down for a lot of people, right? Taking a look at what they've done and what they want to do next. So I love your story. And, I can't wait to hear more about this specific sector. So we don't talk about motorsports that much, in the greater scheme of things in sports and entertainment. And I'm so excited to talk more about it, and particularly learn more about who are these women right now that are, everybody knows who Danica Patrick is.
Yes.
Right?
Well, we all know who Danica Patrick is. Yes. And,
right.
and to that point, Danica Patrick built GoDaddy, right? There was a CMO who believed in her and saw the big picture and went to bat for her and put it all into her, and look at what happened with GoDaddy. And so, but we can't just have one. We have to have more than one. We have to have more than two. We have to have more than three in order to normalize it. Women aren't gimmicks. We're not minorities. We're over half the population, and we spend $20 trillion a year in consumer spending. We make 85% of the household spending choices. So what I did in the beginning is I wanted to lead with the data, because the data doesn't lie. When you have a C-suite in a boardroom, and what do? They're looking over data, and with technology now, everything is measurable, right? And that is marketing. And what I've learned, that branding is the immeasurable moments, right? And so I got to know a lot of these female drivers and their stories. And as we also know, marketing is about telling authentic stories and connecting the masses, to their emotion and the authenticity in that. And so I got to just really study a lot of these women. And during COVID, when everyone was locked in, everyone went online. So I got to really get to know them, watching their Instagram stories, watching them holed up in these little apartments and on their simulators and training. And you look at these young women in their 20s, they've already been racing for 20 years. And what we're finding is they're either aging out or just giving up to get to the highest forms of motorsport. Then I watched a documentary on ESPN Plus, the Janet Guthrie story called Qualified. And I was sitting on my couch and I was watching this documentary, and she's incredible. She's one of the most incredible people, and one of my, like, she's part of my soul, and she's in her 80s now. She's sharp as a tack. She's just one of my favorite people on earth. And she was the first woman to qualify for the Indy 500. Well, if you watch the documentary, it's all very great. And then at the end, her career abruptly ends. And they asked Dick Simon, why did this happen? And he said, well, corporate America just wasn't quite ready yet to back a female race car driver. And the heaviness, the anger, the dismay that I felt in that moment really started a fire in my belly. And I said, this has got to change. This was over 40 years ago, and it really hasn't changed that much. And we are ready. Corporate America is ready. The time is now. And so the moment that the fire really came into my belly was when my daughter was in her virtual classroom 20 feet away, and they were trying to get the kids involved in virtual learning. So they were asking the children to talk about their family, and they asked, well, what does your mommy do for a living? And my daughter said, well, my mommy helps women be able to race cars with men. And then I said, that was the aha, right? And I said to myself, oh my God, I have to do this. And so it's like your life flashing before you, and you look back at your 20 years in motorsports and you go, this is what it means. This is what it means. And you get a chill and you go, oh my God, it's happening. This is this is my mission. And, I put it out there to some friends in business that I respect very much. And one of them said to me, if you're going to do this, you have to commit yourself 100%. And you cannot have 1% doubt in your mind, or it's going to fail. And I said, I'm doing this. And I have not looked back. I have not doubted myself one bit. And here we are today, still talking about PowerDrive.
I love it. What really resonated with me with all that, two things, okay, that you said. The first thing is that, with Danica Patrick, you said she had a CMO who believed in her.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that really resonates, because that's really what needs to happen, right?
And wasn't afraid to take this mission and this idea and her belief in Danica and seeing the big picture and what Danica could do for the company, was unafraid to slog that through the system and make it happen. And that's one of the things that I'm finding is that CEOs, CFOs, and the like, they're not there's a gap between their C-suite and the CEO. There's a gap there. And I think people are afraid to try new things. They want to stay in their comfort zone. They want to stay the status quo. Oh, if we've got growth, we've got growth. Again, those measurable moments that they look at. But she believed in Danica and she pushed it through. And I stand by that statement. Danica Patrick made GoDaddy.
Right. And what's funny is that, the case study is there, and yet it didn't stick.
Mm-mm.
Right.
No, because there was only one.
Right.
Danica Patrick was, unfortunately, in NASCAR, the token female driver. It's very gimmicky. And what I think the tide is turning now, because we're realizing that it's good for business across the board. It's good to normalize women competing with men in motorsport, because it's one of the only professional sports where men and women can compete equally. And so you look at that, and you look at the global business of motorsports, a $6 billion a year industry. And then you look at the data that shows us how much power women have in spending decisions, and they're not marketing to us. They're not connecting with us. And I think that it's, the tide is turning. I'm very optimistic about the future.
Excellent. Well, the other thing too that stuck with me is how your daughter summarized, right? Just in the most direct, simple to understand way, that my mom helps women race cars with men.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that, because I think, there's a couple ways you can look at that. It's like, that's so clear. That's so obvious. And of course, that's the way, a young person understands it. She clearly understands, but then if you look back on your career and now it's so easy for your daughter to understand what it is you do. I think maybe if you go back a couple of years ago, how would she have summarized it?
Yeah.
Right.
Having that time with her, I homeschooled her a year and a half. So not only did she hear me in all these meetings, we would meet during our breaks. I would schedule things around her school breaks. We'd have dance parties and talk about the day. And she hears everything. And she's learned a lot, when I was designing the website and saying, how are we gonna communicate this to the masses? Because when you have a startup, everybody knows it's about awareness, and PowerDrive is the first of its kind. And just naming the company, and there's so much that goes into that. And she was a part of that. I would say, Gemma, it's the power of brands and the drive of these athletes, and together we're Motorsport Futures. And she said, yes, Mom, I get it, And so having those moments with her is, in hindsight, homeschooling wasn't so bad after all.
Absolutely. And I love the energy that comes through. I'm sure she felt that, you kind of building something, right? And I can totally understand that. I can totally identify with that. Would you mind sharing? I mean, who are some of the top female drivers in the space now?
So there's a lot of them. And for instance, I'll start way up high in the sky. Melanie Astles. She is the only female air racing pilot in the air race, which is debuting in 2022. She is a 5-time aerobatics champion. What she does is probably the most amazing thing I've ever seen in the sky. She paints the sky, she calls it. And she's debuting in 2022. She'll be the only female pilot in the highest class of air racing. And I am very excited to be working with her. She is incredible. We've got a lot of young talent coming up in NASCAR. Toni Breidinger, she is the first Arab American woman to compete in NASCAR. We've got Brittany Zamora, who is incredible, who just made history in Nashville, being the first woman to win an event at that track. You've got Ashley Sanford, who is in the NHRA. And what she did over COVID was really, really incredible. She said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not racing. What she did was she went out and went to school and got her EMT certification. And she was working on an ambulance. during COVID all night long. And her inspiration in her life is her father, who was a retired fireman. So that was her influence into racing. And then becoming an EMT when everything shut down. I mean, who leans into that during a global pandemic? These are the kind of women and the kinds of stories that I'm going to tell. And then you move on over to open wheel racing, right? I work with a young lady by the name of Sabre Cook, who is a mechanical engineer, and she's an up and coming, going on her road to IndyCar. So there's so many wonderful women that are coming up, and it's my mission. It's what I open my eyes in the morning and have an intention, and it's wonderful. It's not stressful. It's happiness that I get to connect and talk about these young people. And my mission and my goal is to never, ever, ever have there be a woman who is deserving, has done the work, not get a seat at the table to prove herself and to pursue her dream. That is what moves me every single day.
Incredible. Okay, so clearly you're the right person for this job, right?
Yep.
I mean, just listening to you talk, it all makes sense. And so I have to ask just another question. I need to understand. Okay, so how are you going to tell these stories? What does this look like? How are you going to connect the brands with the drivers and share their stories? What is that vision?
Well, I thought about that a lot. And first is awareness. I can talk about PowerDrive and these athletes all day, every day. It's awareness, because PowerDrive is the first of its kind. And then what we do is we connect, we match. I'll talk to a brand and I'll find out and really dig in deep and discover what their initiatives are, what their checklist is. And then I can look around at all of the studies that I've done and all of the women I've gotten to know and match them. So it's about connecting and creating and then activating, then creating a race program and a marketing platform and a program that fits all of their needs, or most of them. You can never fit all of them, but really finding a comprehensive plan of action. And so that's what PowerDrive does. And that is the fun part. It's almost like getting the puzzle pieces thrown in your lap and then putting them all together. I live for that kind of stuff. So that's what we do. And it's a beautiful thing to be doing every day. I don't feel like I work every day. I feel like I am doing what makes me happy every single day. So I just hope it keeps going as long as I'm here.
I'm sure that it will. Okay, so stepping back into your career a little bit, you enjoyed a lengthy career in motorsports, right? And something that I had to bring up, okay, is that you have to know a lot about cars. So it brings to mind for me one of my favorite movies, My Cousin Vinny.
Okay.
Are you, and I have to ask, are you the real life version of Marissa Tomei? And in that movie where you can tell the make, model, and year of a car by looking at its tire tracks?
Let's just say she won an Academy Award for that performance. And her mom's name is Addie. My mom's name is Addie too. I have to know just enough about everything as far as this goes. So yeah, I would say it's comparable. Sure.
I love that. Would you share for us just one or two of the learnings from your career that you're bringing into this venture? It could be about cars or just, the professional environment that you came up in.
I think it all comes down to relationships. Your relationships in your life. You can't put value on that. It's just relationships. It's follow through. It's your word is your bond. It's, for me, I enjoy creating opportunity and experiences for others, just as more so than getting anything in return. And so connecting people, making things happen for people, that's what drives me. And so that's what I've learned along the way is to really keep your word, follow through, work hard, be honest, be transparent, be authentic in your relationships. And I think that that is the nucleus to all of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Relationships follow through, keeping your word. I'm so excited to see what is to come here. I really, really am. Okay. So this is the story time segment. And, you shared with me before the interview that not only was PowerDrive inspired by Janet Guthrie, who you mentioned,
Yep.
the first woman to qualify for the Indy 500,
Mm-hmm.
but also your 8th grade shop class.
Oh,
So
yeah.
tell us a little bit more about the connection here.
Well, it's funny because you don't really understand all the things that happen in your life until you look back and things happen when you're older and you go, oh, and one of those moments for me was, I used to follow my brother around. He had a street car that he would race at Martin, Michigan. And I was just fascinated by the car, the smells, the sounds, the everything. And I was just following him around everywhere and driving him crazy. But so I enrolled in a shop class in the 8th grade. And I was so excited that morning. I can remember it. I'm like, I'm going to shop class today and I'm going to learn about these engines. And I'm so excited. And I walked into the class all chipper and happy. And the entire room just stopped and looked at me, including the teacher. And immediately felt like they don't want me here. I'm not welcome here. You can feel the energy. And I went, oh no. But I'm in the door now. What do I do? I sat through this class. It was 50 minutes. And I was anxious. My hands were sweaty. My heart was pounding. The energy was so bad. I never went back. I was not wanted there. And no one should ever have to feel that way. And when I look at just so much work still needs to be done. And when you have a daughter, that's why you keep going. That's why you keep pushing and striving for more progress. So she doesn't ever have to feel that way when she walks into a room. And no one should have to feel that way, whether you're male, female, black, white, red, orange, purple. We all need to, there's a seat for all of us at the table. And that's what the world needs for progress, innovation, growth, sustainability. So I'm happy to be now a part of the change.
That story took a turn that I wasn't quite expecting. And I'm really glad you shared that story. I thought, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, and she powers through it and she creates this new thing. But, I love that story. And it is so powerful. The way you describe it, I can kind of feel myself there, right? And the stress that you felt in that moment and, looking back on that and that making that part of your mission.
Yeah.
That's really a powerful story. And, I love that you shared that.
Thank you.
I really do. Okay. So women in sports, right? This is what we've been talking about this whole interview. And this is what, this series is about, right? It is about creating gender equality across sports and entertainment in the C-suite or in motorsports or what have you. Last week, we talked with Caroline Savini about gender equality in gaming.
Yeah.
Okay. And there are so many verticals in each sport that you can discuss this issue, but your focus is on gender equality in motorsport, women competing at the highest level, right? And as we already mentioned, the numbers are sort of bleak. I pulled a stat that said only 16 women have ever raced in a NASCAR Cup Series event. And this was from 2021. And that added up to less than 4% of all drivers who ever competed in a NASCAR Cup Series event. I know this is only one of the, the aspects of the industry, but, let's talk a little bit more about why this is the case and what needs to happen in order for women to enjoy a more equal level of longevity in motorsports.
Yes, those are the numbers. They're very bleak. What we know now, right now, today, there are no women competing in Formula One. There are no women competing in IndyCar. There are no women competing in NASCAR Cup. There are tons of women competing in the NHRA on the highest levels, winning championships, winning races. You look at Erica Enders. She is arguably one of the best pro stock champions in the world. Angelle Sampey is the winningest female in motorsports across the globe. Brittany Force won the 2017 world title. Hadn't been done in 34 years since Shirley Muldowney. We know it works in the NHRA. We know men and women are equal in a race car. Physically, physiologically, mental, everything is equal. The only thing women lack is opportunity. So they're 10 years behind men in seat time and opportunity and training. They don't get the seat time that men get coming up. So how we change that is what PowerDrive is about, the power of brands, right? If we have these incredible women that I've discussed earlier, if we have a corporate brand on the journey with them to the top, imagine how we can change those numbers. Imagine what we can accomplish in both business, the marketing, the measurable and the immeasurable, which are the stories of the journey to the top, right? And that's how we change it. And then also, once they're there, when the world sees what they're capable of, and we have more than one, more than two, more than three, then it normalizes. And I always say we're gonna equalize this thing. That is what PowerDrive is all about, and that's how we change it. When we have a platform that doesn't use women as gimmicks, and that's when you have more than one, more than two, more than three, and then when we see the corporate brands benefiting from telling these types of stories and really elevating these women, that's when we're going to see the change happen. But it's got to happen across the globe. It's got to happen in the highest forms of motorsport. It can't just be little microcosms, because we know the past shows us that doesn't work.
Well, so the message here is, if you're listening and you're a CMO of a big brand,
you're still hanging in here, yeah,
or a CEO of a big brand, you need to reach out to Tami and talk to her about women in motorsports. Okay. The wave of the future, PowerDrive.
Yes,
I love this so much. I am so energized by this.
Me too.
I am so excited. I'm going to go off and I'm going to do more research on my own about, women in motorsports and who's competing and all this stuff. This is incredible stuff. Okay. So final question, final segment, wins. So we've talked so much about what you're working on with PowerDrive in the coming months, in the coming years. And I'm so excited to cheer you on and all that stuff. What else are you working toward? Are there any other wins, personally or professionally, that you want to share so that we can cheer you on?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, what we've talked about today hasn't even scratched the surface of my big major plans. And so I have so many plates spinning right now professionally. More to come later. Keep your eyes on PowerDrive, because we're gonna disrupt, and it's gonna be fun. And I always say, if you don't piss a few people off in the process, you're not doing your job. We're going big. And so professionally, I am so all about it, and very excited about the future. Personally, I've got to allow myself to shut down once in a while, because I have a tendency, I'm like someone told me, you're such a strong river that flows so heavy. You gotta, in order for things to come back to you, you have to be able to calm the waters and shut down and recharge. And so I've really learned that. I would say the past 3 or 4 months, I've been able to say, okay, it's Friday, I'm wrapping it up, and shut myself off until Monday morning, or actually Sunday night, because I prep for the next week on Sunday night. But from Friday afternoon to Sunday evening, I shut it down. I will go lay on the beach. I will not talk on the phone. And having those moments to recharge is something that I didn't do for myself before. And I think in doing that, I'm a better partner, I'm a better friend, I'm a better mother. And so, and also drinking more water. I know it sounds trivial, but I wasn't drinking enough water. So now I'm mindful of that, and making sure what I put in my body is benefiting me, and not just, caffeine all day long. So those are the things I'm working on, and I'm a work in progress like everybody else. So just being more mindful about self-care.
I'm laughing to myself because I am right there with you. Okay. More water is not trivial. More water is essential. I need to drink more water. I need to learn to shut off. I think when you found something like you have, Tami, where you are pouring yourself into this fully, okay? You are so in this. You're all in on normalizing women at the highest level of auto racing. It is hard to shut that off.
Yes.
Right. So you find yourself like you're living in alignment with your mission. You found it. You're getting so much closer to your goals. How could you stop? Right. Yeah, I get that. Friday comes and you've got so much more to do. I really appreciate that. And thank you for sharing that. I think so many women can identify with that. I know I can. So
yes.
So this has been an amazing conversation. I am so excited to hear more about what is going on with PowerDrive. We're going to have to check back in next year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
definitely. I will have a lot more to tell you next year, and probably, in the next 6 months. So I would love to circle back and fill everybody in on the progress. I know I have so many supporters and so many great people around me. I have so much gratitude, and I'd be happy to share the updates as they come up. It's going to be a great year.
Well, thank you so much, Tami, for all of this. This has been incredible.
Thank you.